Hey everybody, this is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video about the divided states of thin ice, anti-deportation actions, no kings, and the future of the United States, or the divided states, I should say. Um, yeah, what is going on out there? A lot going on out there right now. I kind of wanted to kind of like not give you all the news. You can get that from anywhere. Um, but kind of like put some of what is happening right now into a larger context from obviously from my my particular perspective, which is I'm not on the continent. Uh, uh, Native Hawaiian under U.S. Under the U.S. So that's my perspective. And but also like I just wanted to kind of I spent a lot more time on the Twitch stream recently talking about this, so I'll try to summarize it though. The number one thing is that I feel like the biggest point is that the U.S. has been deeply divided for a long time. The United States as a country, despite the claims to make America great, the claims to want to make America great by one of the current presidents. Some people don't believe he should be president, obviously, or I think maybe they call him a king, and he shouldn't be king. There should be no kings. But the United States was, in many senses, never actually great. From a native perspective, absolutely. From the global majority, the 90% of Asia, Africa, Latin America's perspective, it's not been very great. But it at least it presented a united front. The United States presented a united front for a while. It kept up the facade of democracy for a while, and some people might take an insult to that and be like, "Well, it's absolutely democratic." We don't have time for there's multiple Silver Spook, multiple hour videos that specifically address that question. Yeah, and I should probably go and use this as a way to dovetail into those. I'll bring them up later. But yeah, so the U.S. has been, it's been more divided in the last 10, 15 years. More obviously divided. Some would say balkanizing. Definitely fracturing. The anti-ICE protests are obviously, it's more than just being against ICE, right? And what the current administration is doing, I mean, it is horrible. I want to put that out there. That what they're doing is absolutely horrible. What they say they're doing is horrible, and what they are de facto doing, what their actual intentions are, which is actually, this is not ultimately about, I mean, this is my opinion, obviously, but I don't believe that this is actually about reducing the number of Central, South American, and immigrant populations in the United States. I don't believe for a second that that's actually what this is about. I believe that the base of the current president, king, the current authoritarian leader, whatever you want to call him, I believe that he wants to, gain popularity amongst what would be described as his core supporters, core voters, right? But I don't think that's ultimately not really the main goal of what's happening, because one thing to point out is actually the total deportations. The actual facts are that the total deportations under Obama were almost twice what Trump administration, the first, deported. The current administration is still, I mean, according to some estimates, is still 10% lower than Biden's total deportations. The number of people actually being removed from the country is a smaller number, just in absolute numbers, in the total number of people being removed. than Democratic administrations. Uh, Now, so that doesn't necessarily mean that Trump is pro-immigrant, or or he just like loves the Mexican and South and Central American communities and Latinos, and he's only putting up a big show, but he really loves them so much. I'm not saying that either. Uh, One major difference is that the one definitely significant change is that the U.S. tourism, right, or people U.S. tourism, U.S. visits in general are way down, right? I'm just trying to get a number on that. Canadian boycott U.S. travel is stronger than ever. Trying to get the actual numbers. It was like it's double-digit percentages down from Europe, from Canada, from Norway, from Japan, UK. It's off. It's dropping off. It's like double-digit percentages down, 20% almost 20% across the board. So people entering the U.S. is way down because of the actions of ICE and Trump enforcement. Well, I'll just say Trump's actions. Not really enforcement. It's not really enforcement. But it is definitely it's causing people to not want to enter the United States because, and this is another important difference. No matter who you are, right? So recently there was a Danish person. See if I can get that one. I'll just pull that up on the screen. You heard of this, I'm sure. I'm gonna get it if I just do that. Yeah. Yeah, man, 31 in the U.S. illegally for 12 years. Referring family detained by ICE. He was a Danish national with no criminal record, living in the U.S. legally for more than 10 years. Was detained. Remember this. So it doesn't matter who you are. You could be the people who would be considered very acceptable by this. This is why it doesn't make sense to say, oh, it's about trying to make America more Caucasian or targeting people based upon skin color only or national origin. That there's elements of that within the conservative Venn diagrams. Obviously, there's elements of that in these, kind of chaotic actions. Let's just call it. I'm gonna keep calling it actions because it's not really enforcement. It's not actually enforcing laws. They're breaking all kinds of laws to quote unquote. It's not. It's nothing. I don't think it's that. But yeah, so a guy who was in the U.S. legally, he was legally in the U.S. He was spent thousands of dollars. He spent years going to all of his official. He was going to a routine appointment to finalize his citizenship, according to multiple media reports. Casper Erickson. This is not the kind of people you think of as being rounded up by ICE and deported, right? He living in Mississippi. I mean, this is the kind of person they would want to keep those kind of people historically a lot of the time they want to keep those kinds of people in the United States. Trump even said we need more Norwegians and Scandinavians coming in at one point. Remember that? And a lot of conservatives have often GOP have called for that kind of thing. He was unexpectedly taken into custody April 15th, later transferred to the Les Salles Detention Center in Louisiana. He moved as an exchange student in 2009, returned to Denmark, but he's been living legally. He had 4 children in the United States. He's been in there for over 10 years, fully complying with all the rules, all the regulations, going to his appointments, not a criminal, working in the United States, contributing to the U.S. economy, right? Doing all the things you would expect, and still got deported, right? Like he's got like American flags everywhere. So I would say that this is not actually about trying to, in any significant real way, limit or make America, a particular skin color, or make America, those bad people. This is not ultimately, I would say, about that. Part of this is definitely part, like I would say, it's definitely the actions, right, particularly by ICE, but it's not just ICE, right? There's all, remember earlier we had all the Doge actions, gutting USAID, going through and attacking everyone in removing I'm a big fan of that. Just that particular organization. But USAID, a lot of European governments, officials, Democrat officials. Harvard was attacked last stream. I talked about how Harvard is under assault from the current administration for reasons, descholarization. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up on the screen for a second. So there's education, attacks on the Department of Education, attacks on the National Science Foundation, attacks on the banking system, the Wall Street in general. It's actually everybody across the board. Anyone who is not an ally of Trump and his inner circle, and even if some of in the inner circle, they're under attack too. Like it's a little more WWE staging of between him and Elon, I would say. But there's anyone who could be viewed as an enemy of the Trump and his friends is definitely being they're having various kinds of actions taken against them, right? And so I would say actually that's more what this is tied to, right? It's a test, right? It's a test of the loyalty of various branches of the various factions, branches of the U.S. government, demographics in the U.S. population. How far can I get in L.A., right? There's a movie called Bushwick, which is about where like red secessionist forces or it's basically like MAGA assaults New Jersey. It assaults the East Coast cities. It's a Bushwick by it stars Dave Bautista, and it's not quite the scale. Bushwick is a little more extreme, but it's very similar in the sense that it's like red states form militias and just attack and assault and just start a war with the entire Eastern Seaboard. So like New York, and also the Western Seaboard. L.A., New York, New Jersey get militarily attacked. They just start killing people in the Puerto Rican neighborhoods. People are eating their bacon, egg, and cheese, and they're getting shot by white nationalists from the center of the United States backing a Trumpian kind of figure. They're while they're going to the bodega, they're just blowing away like the black and brown communities, the LA. I mean, everyone is. There's a full war between the more Republican aligned forces and flyover state crowds, and the usual kind of suspects that you might think about those people, and then the entire all the blue mega cities full with more diverse populations, etc. There's a full-on war. It's basically a civil war in the United States, and and I also made a video. I want to bring that up now about the Civil War and the possibility of U.S. Civil War, because this is gonna be a shorter stream, so I'm gonna try to just jump through a lot of these. But I think this is, as I said, I talk longer about this on Wednesday on Twitch, but where is my Civil War? Not there. But and so one of the like long discussions to be had is speaking about, because I said this about the divided not United States of the United States. What is the probability of U.S. entering a civil war? And just on that topic alone, in one sense, the U.S. has already been at a civil war. Some important facts. So some important evidence to that. Well, A is define civil war. What does that mean? At minimum, a kind of like a cold civil war, not the Captain America versus Iron Man, Marvel blockbuster. That that's about when in one sense it is, because if Captain America is the U.S. political president, it represents kind of United States as a political entity, and Iron Man represents billionaire philanthropist arms dealer playboy ultra rich tech magnates, right? Elon and Trump in a WWE sense, and in in a Pride Month gajillionaire bromance breakup sense, they are at war, civil war. So in that sense, Captain America Civil War is already happening. But in another sense, if Civil War is when two factions, there's a schism within a country or some kind of supposedly unified political entity, and they can't agree on, and it's a lot of times it stems from like who is legitimate, right? Who is the legitimate government? Who is the legitimate leadership? One side takes the stance that, or one side tries to secede to say like, well, the Confederacy of the United States is seceding, and the Confederacy is the government of Mississippi, Georgia, et al., right? Vis-a-vis the 1800s U.S. Civil War, right? And then the North said, no, you will not secede, right? The federal government of the United States, headquartered, right? That was run from the North, and it is in charge of the entire United States. This is the United States. So there's a disagreement about who is the legitimate government, right? That's one fraction of what constitutes a civil war. And in that sense, the United States is already at civil war. It's not the U.S. is not shooting, but the U.S. is already at civil war. It's been a civil war for 5 years at least 5 years. One of them is January 6th. During January 6th, in case you don't remember this day that should live in more infamy, the United States Capitol was attacked, right? It was coup. The United States Capitol was assaulted by all branches of the U.S. military, by various members of Air Force, Army, Marines, and Navy. They were all, not the whole, not all the armed forces, but there were members across the board. There were government officials that were on Trump's side. There were generals. There were 4-star generals that sided with Trump. The United States almost broke into. The U.S. almost entered a full civil war at that point. And there's been many points where it could have, right? And it's easy to think that the U.S. is fine. It's doing great. It's just the United States is already basically balkanized and then re-healed, but it has healed several times, just enough to keep the facade that there is a United States going. But the reality is that almost half of the United States during the election of 2020, by most polls, is basically like almost half of the United States, 48 to 50, sometimes 50% of the United States did not accept Biden as the elected president. They did not accept him, and they staged a treasonous coup of the United States to attempt to seize control of the presidency. Donald Trump ordered the destruction of under the Postmaster DeJoy, right? He ordered the destruction of post office boxes to prevent mail-in ballots, which tended to have a higher probability of containing Biden votes. He ordered to dismantle and interfere with the election on all kinds of ways, right? All of that is obviously illegal. I'm not here to be I'm not a Trump or Biden supporter. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to state the facts. He did all kinds of things. He weaponized the National Guard, right, during the Black Lives Matter action of 2020, which was, by the way, the Black Lives Matter of 2020 was the largest uprising in the history of the United States. 30+ million people were in the street, right, after George Floyd had his neck knocked on for 8 minutes 46 seconds. In that sense, the United States has never been great. There's never been human rights, freedom, or democracy when police can just kneel on the necks of innocent people, particularly brown and black ones, and live on camera and unalive them and get away with this. This is the idea that this hasn't been fascism is absurd to most of the world, actually, which is not Euro upper middle class. I just want to get that out of the way. So this idea that they're right, but in the context of the Western and U.S., global minority perspective, which is just, the global minority's perspective is the Caucasian American upper middle class that doesn't want to miss brunch. Conservative and liberal and progressive. From that perspective, the U.S. is losing its this is not who we are. Right? It's losing that, and so within that, but even within that context, the United States can't even pretend like it's free democratic. And since the Floyd rebellion, that 2020 uprising, that was the largest. This is what and remember, the U.S. military was deployed to brutalize. Also across the board, Donald Trump deployed U.S. military assets across the entire United States. Marines, Army were out in the streets. National Guards across the board. Gavin Newsom deployed 8,000 National Guard. He's currently being heralded as some kind of hero, but we have to remember, we just had 4 years of a live stream genocide by the Democrats. They have set the stage, and they've set the stage, and they're part of the two-faced, one-party oligarchic imperial capitalist system. Let's be real. I mean, in the actual ground floor reality, that's the reality. So what this posturing now is, it's a bit odd. I mean, it's not odd. It's a bit. I'm not saying people shouldn't go to. I'm not saying people should or shouldn't do any action, and I'm not saying like, what we need is just Trump to be in charge. Obviously, as I said, he's horrible. And the Democrats have let millions of people become mass disabled and die under a horrible virus. They ballooned police budgets after Black Lives Matter, which was the main demand, was reduce police brutality, reduce the massive militarization of the armed force, militarization of the police, and there were more police unalivings of innocent people the first year of Biden. So there's a unbroken continuation, no matter the Trump, Republican, or Democrat president. It's important. And it's also important to say, if you're anti-ICE, Democrats have been deported. If you're anti-deportations, Democrats have deported more. Right? Obama, almost twice as much as Trump. Biden, 10% more than Biden 2020. Democrat was 10% more than Trump. So in the actual ground floor reality, in the actual numbers, they don't stand up. Now, what the impact psychologically is on the masses, that's also important. I'm not saying that's unimportant. Just grabbing anybody on the street, which is what they're doing now. Grabbing anyone on the street, arresting anyone in any context, despite immigration status, whether you're a U.S. citizen or not, it's irrelevant, right? The Trump administration has deported like 50-year-old white full U.S. citizens whose parents were citizens to like El Salvador. They've already done that, right? They're rounding up and deporting U.S. military members, right? That like served in military. Nobody is off limits. So that's why I said this is not really. I don't think it's not about immigrant. Ultimately, it's not about immigrant policy. It's who will be loyal to Trump if he needs to call on them to coup the country again and take control of the United States, right? He already tried. 50%, and coming back to this point, Trump used the military to suppress actions against himself. He ordered hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition. I have a hard time finding this article, but I remember it was brought up into Washington, D.C. to use the U.S. military, live ammunition. He brought, like, it's kind of like what's happening now. He's bringing all these tanks into D.C. He brought the military into D.C., or big forces into the D.C., and he was preparing to order, by many accounts, he's preparing to order the U.S. military to basically start a civil war and shoot live ammunition at the Black Lives Matter protesters. This happens in countries, the United States, around the world. This is why most of the rest of the world is kind of like good for you, right? A lot of the rest of the world is like good for you because this is what you do to places like Bolivia and other places around the world, which is try to get countries couped, overthrown, start civil wars, color revolutions. Elon even openly admitted this. He said when there was a bloody coup, your Doge chief, he said, oh, of course we will coup whoever we want. We'll January 6th anyone we feel like it. If you want your lithium in Bolivia, we'll fund and arm far right extremists and fascists that just go in the street and just shoot people with not with rubber bullets. Remember, the United States, the U.S. is not as bad as much as many people are on the street. It's not even close to Black Lives Matter 2020 yet. B, the United States, even with the Black Lives Matter, the U.S. military never fired live ammunition into the protesters. So the U.S. is not at the level that the U.S. routinely brings Central South American, African, and Asian countries to, which is to say, all out like internal massacres to take control of the country under a fascist neoliberal imperial U.S. backed regime to steal the resources like lithium, coltan copper, maintain extreme exploited labor in Southeast Asia, or just keep their military bases and unsinkable aircraft carriers all across. There hasn't been an election, just as an example, in Ukraine for a while now. I don't know if you know that. People will say, well, we need to do that because we need to have totalitarian regimes that round up people just like ICE, because democracy, but I mean, you can't say that. You can't. It's like if people, you have to be. If you're for democracy, if you claim to be for democracy, you should be for democracy. If you're for the people being heard and the needs of the people being fulfilled. I would actually say it's more important that the needs of the people is fulfilled rather than any particular election is held. And we don't see that in Bolivia. We didn't see that in. Let me get a little map of that. Okay, like we don't see that. Right? We don't see that U.S. supporting democracies around the world. This is what we see. We see the attempt to destroy and overthrow countries. Almost more countries, more than half the countries on the earth. At least almost every country has had a coup attempt against it, right? In the last 7 years under U.S. imperial order, right? So again, from that context, what the U.S. is experiencing in 2020 is just a small taste of what it does to everyone else all the time, which is also why I say, as a Native Hawaiian, the U.S. did an illegal coup against 95% of us Native Hawaiians, saying we don't want the United States to illegally annex, with U.S.-backed military force, our sovereign socialist country of Hawaii, because we actually had universal health care, world's first under 1859 leadership by Emma Kaleleo Nalani. We had the highest literacy rate in the world, 98%. The U.S. literacy is plummeting, and he just severed and destroyed the Department of Education. So that's why we didn't want to join the U.S. Very, very clear, good reasons why we didn't want to join the United States. But so my point is that like if we zoom out, there's also a lot of Chinese saying, well, you like the Hong Kong rioters, have a mass uprisings. You should enjoy January 6th, right? Because you like it when people rise up against the governments. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have time to get into that one, but the rest of the world looks at the United States. In the U.S., Nancy Pelosi was cheering the American flags being flown there, right? Because there's Americans that are saying, well, you can't fly Mexican flags. You can't fly these flags. This is the United States. A, it's not illegal to fly other countries' flags. B, you're flying, the blue and white star flag that's committing live stream HOLOCAUST. You're flying blue and yellow flag. People are flying all kinds of flags in the United States when they feel like it, right? And then, but when it's people that, if it's a flag you don't like, then it's illegal. So, but I mean that's usual Western exceptionalism, white supremacy, etc. And U.S. exceptionalism. So January, and so not, so let me come back let's come back into the U.S. perspective. From within the United States. Oh, sorry, my thing seems to be broken. From within the United States, right? The coup on January 6th could be deemed as a right. From the United States, the coup in January 6th isn't taken as seriously, I think, as many people probably should, right? It's just to say that there's a long-standing belief that Biden was never president. On the other side, there's a long-standing belief that Trump has always been a illegitimate president. In one sense, in one sense, he has been an illegitimate president. Why has he been an illegitimate president? Well, I mean, he did commit tons of felonies. He did try to use the military against his own citizens. He did do massive amounts of fraud and cheating, including sabotaging post office boxes during the 2020 election. I mean, that's all true, right? Now, of course, the Democrats have committed all kind of crimes across the board, across the world, including massive wars of aggression, including the live stream worst possible crime against humanity we just watched for 20 months straight in West Asia as children were mass unalived, and the U.S. just laughed and the liberals went to brunch. So this is where so like it's like all of that is true, but it's kind of like in the like when the Democrat and liberals, the other party, just like has set the stage by being massively lawless in the worst possible way possible. What is worse than committing genocide, right? There isn't, you know. So that's not. The Democrats said, well, we're going to do everything to the rest of the world, the worst possible things. And Trump's like, well, how about I just do the worst possible? I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to like beat you up and use the military against you. I'm going to like, you know, be more controlling. And it's all unlawful, just like you. But I'll do it to liberals. I'll do it to Democrats. I'll do it to anybody I feel like. I'll do it to Dutch parents who become American citizens. I think partially it's because that, you know, that Dutch parent, right? He's a European, and a lot of the Europeans were against Trump when it came to his election. Like a lot of Europe was like, you are on the side of Putin and Trump. You're joined at the hip. Okay, whether they are or not. Okay, just look at it from the Trumpian perspective. You are my enemy now. One thing you can say about Trump is when you so let me come back to my main page. If you attack Donald Trump, he will view you as a antagonist, as his enemy. And European leaders, whether that's Germany, France, Britain, and large swaths of their population, they said he is trying to stop giving weapons and money to Ukraine, which we need to keep doing because we need to fight Nazism, which is Russia, or, you know, we have to fight the Russian authoritarian invasion of Europe for whatever reason, right? And so there is inside of Trump's mind is like, well, I'm going to stop European immigrants coming over here. You guys should be like Pete Hegseth and Vance have made it clear, like at least they've been talking more about that perspective, even though they're joined at the hip in all of these crimes across the world, imperialism, colonialism, neo-colonialism worldwide. But they did say, Europe, you have to spend your own money on your own defense. We're not going to be here for every single thing that you want. We have to focus on other enemies. Like, well, obviously their enemy. You know, they view China as their enemy. Number one, and Trump has a personal vendetta against a lot. He did like rip up large amounts of the funding that goes to pay for BBC, Guardian, New York Times, through USAID. There's, I think, 5% of Guardian, just the Guardian's funding was through USAID, and so that's a piece of what was going on there. He also like drew down NED funding, which is supports democracy. It's actually coups, color revolutions, and overthrows. But anyway. I said I was going to talk about the global minorities perspective, so let's come back to the United States perspective. So, but I mean, ultimately, when you come into the United States at the border, it used to be the case, because I've crossed the U.S.-Canada border like 20 times in my life at least. Every time I was pulled in because of my skin color. Like every single time I drove up to that border, they looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm basically a Mexican drug lord until proven innocent at the border." You know actually what works? If I bust out like a chocolate macadamia box and I'm like, "Hey, I'm from Hawaii. You want a spam musubi? Hey, Lilo and Stitch. Hey, Moana." You know, if I start doing a haka, you know, I don't do a haka, but if I start like, you know, talking about Hawaii stuff, I'm like, "I'm from Hawaii." The guard, I can almost see it in the guard's face. You know, I got this like icy blue eyes like staring me down like that, or you know, sometimes it's just like, it's not even that. So it could be Uncle Tom over there, like just like I gotta make my quota of people I'm pulling in. I'm gonna racially profile. I mean, it's all racial profiling because that's what we're all doing here. And they'll stare me down, and then once I talk about Hawaii, they're like, I had the best vacation ever in Waikiki. I got married and I swam with the dolphins, and I went to Hanauma Bay, and I just I had an amazing time just eating coconuts and having pina coladas, and then it gets easier, right? But it's like every single time I pulled in, every single time. When Holly's mom is a 50-year-old white lady. Every single time she's crossed the border, she's Canadian, but every single time she's crossed the border, she's also not a U.S. citizen, right? Technically, I have a U.S. citizenship, but every time she's crossed the border, she's crossed hundreds of times, never been pulled in once. So they've always been profiling, regardless of Democrat or Republican administration, regardless of who's in charge. I've crossed it during Obama years. I've crossed it during Trump years. I crossed the border. I'm pretty sure during at least maybe once during the Bush years. So it's irrelevant who is in charge. It like they just look at you and they go, well, you look like if you're Arab looking, you could be a terrorist. If you're Mexican, well, if you're brown and you look a little bit like Hispanic, well, I mean, maybe you're carrying some illegal substances. You're gonna inject fentanyl straight into a good, untainted, pure, never used drugs once American veins, right? Chinese created, Mexican trafficked. Opioids are being hand inserted by Jackie Chan and Jackie Chan and the president of Mexico are personally injecting the fentanyl in everybody's veins. Anyways, don't have time to go into all these, but they've always been doing that. The difference now is that they are not just targeting those people, right? They're just anyone that since January, anyone that basically the guard doesn't like, who might be an enemy of Trump, right? It's basically like they put big balls in charge. They put a sycophant, crypto bro, MAGA kid who is probably selling. He probably has a AI generated Studio Ghibli, super yellow, gross, Miyazaki nightmare avatar, right? And he is just if he doesn't like you, if the ICE, if the immigration's person at the airport or at the border when you're crossing in your car, if that officer doesn't like what you look like, they can pull you in and put you in jail for a month, which they've done, right? There's that. I just want to bring that up again. The Canadian who was detained for 2 weeks by ICE, legally coming in to work, right? I was a Canadian who was detained by ICE for 2 weeks, felt like they had been kidnapped. I was in a freezing cell without explanation, despite eventually having lawyers and media attention. Yet, compared to others, I was lucky. No explanation, no warning. 1 minute, I was in an immigration office talking to an officer about my work visa, which had been approved months before and allowed me, a Canadian, to work in the U.S. Next, I was told to put my hands against the wall and patted down like a criminal before being sent to an ICE detention center without the chance to talk to a lawyer. I grew up in Whitehorse, Yukon, a small town. Hey, so this is a Canadian coming in from Vancouver and was going to has been working at film, television, owning bars and restaurants. So this is my theory, right? So imagine you are one of those, again, good friends of Trump or the Trump inner circle, and they have hired you, and he is making sure the people, right? That's why it doesn't matter if it's at the lower level blue collar workforce, government officials, soldiers, police enforcers, right, or at the highest level, right? Trump doesn't like Jerome Powell, and he went after him. He doesn't like Harvard. What is bigger than Harvard? Like I pointed out last time, right? But it's because that they have attacked him. Liberals in general, any institution that could ever attack him. And let's be real, he has been attacked. Whether you like him or not, he has been under attack, right? Hillary Clinton, that was a lot of the mid-2010s, was that Hillary Clinton and that Democratic liberal side has declared Trump an agent of Putin, a stooge, a infiltrator, authoritarian, a tyrant, and all these things, all the Russiagate, and what I'm at, let's leave aside like whether that's true or not, because I don't have time to get into that. Like, he has been under attack. He has been convicted of felonies in the United States. He was sued constantly. He was impeached multiple times. Like, he's done all kind of and I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve that, because he's absolutely done all kind of horrible things. Trump, but we have to also remember, Trump was put in the position that he was in by the U.S. capitalist liberal infrastructure, right? It was by the banker and the corporate class, the oligarchy. After the era of the Great Depression and the massive rise of socialist and communist and union organizations in the U.S. in the 30s, leading up to the New Deal, right, and World War II, the capitalist class, which is liberal conservative across the board, they have always been upset about that, and they've since the 50s, where you had the CEOs are making on average 30 times the workers. They have been trying to roll that back and increase their power the whole time. Trump was a useful tool as a reality in the 80s. Remember this, right? Trump was a useful tool as a non-Jewish, non-Italian, he was very looking like the Republican heartland white guy, and he was useful to be a attractor to bring the people from the country to make wealth, to make CEOs, to make the stock market cool again. Right? That was the Reaganomics dream, right? We're gonna not, right? Because for a lot of time, the CEOs and the rich, since the Roaring '20s, right, and the stock market explosion, when they were making maximum profits, right? The bankers and the heads of corporations were having these huge parties, right? The Great Gatsby era, Roaring '20s, right? It was roaring for the ultra rich, and then there was the Great Depression, the Grapes of Wrath, the Dust Bowl. Trump was there as the poster boy to make capitalism as a whole, to make Wall Street, to make the rich cool again in the eyes, using TV, and Reagan, a Hollywood star as well, cowboy writer, right? Which is where Hollywood is complicit in all that as well, as Ayn Rand wrote their entire motion pictures, the Motion Picture Association's Screen Guide for the Preservation of American Values, written by known anti-communist Ayn Rand, defector from the evil Nazis, which were the Soviet Union. That's who they were, and that's who they. Anyway, I don't have time to go. I'm bringing up too many topics all at once. So my point is that Trump he was supported by liberals. He was supported by the J.P. Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, right? Those are they tend to fund the liberal. They fund liberal candidates in the very extremely blue New York City, and Trump has been he is a product of the United States liberal capitalist order, the liberal blue democratic New York City. But he's also had a chip on his shoulder because they never fully accepted him as a part of the real elite, right? He became a billionaire, but he was still looked down upon. And he's always had a chip on his shoulder. He became a reality TV star, right? And he was put up. Elon is similar to Trump, as I pointed out before, because Elon was a poster boy for 21st century Silicon Valley-led techno-futurist U.S. imperial capitalist global Western domination, right? It's symbolized by Iron Man. We're going to have drones and high tech, and the best minds of the world are all going to come to America, right? The U.S. is going to brain drain India, China, Africa, everyone. They're all going to come to America. We're going to have the best, smartest people working in STEM, and we're going to have the best weapons, which will dominate the entire planet by. We'll have the best media writers and Hollywood makers to brainwash everyone into believing we're great, and we'll control the world that way, right? But Elon was also like, well, I don't want to just be your poster boy. I just want to do whatever I fucking feel like right now. And Trump and Elon are very similar, right? I've pointed that out before because of those two factors. So, but long story short, so what is happening, and what's happening now is the the poster children who have won, they've become like in the Roman times what would have been Marcus Aurelius, right? Like in the Gladiator. Trump and Elon have, and I also have a video about that. But you can watch that one on this YouTube channel. But like they've won the popular support from large quantities of the population. They've had to be public figures. They had to be charismatic, chutzpah filled. Elon doesn't have much of that, but he's been put up, right, as being this worshipped model of the greatest American, right? The captive industry, super ultra genius that's invented his way out of caves, he created fusion from like duct tape, his naval lint, and bits of copper somewhere, in a war zone that the U.S. created, right? That's the myth of Iron Man, literally, right? His arc reactor. And Trump, and so these mega popular figures in the imaginations of the Western American public. Now Trump is like moved more towards, aiming at the impoverished, especially white and especially men, more like GOP base, which he's overtaken them. The GOP is like not able to touch him in terms of like the mass popular support. But now those popular figures are assaulting the oligarchies behind them, which is it's actually similar to what is happening in Gladiator, because you have this less in the eye of the public oligarchy, which the West has always had, and then you have a super popular figure that's giving people what they want, the bread and the circuses, that then turns on the oligarchy and then starts trying to find who is trying to stab him in the back, right? So well-known not democracy Rome, like the well-known not very democratic United States, is going through a similar process, right? Particularly when it's declining, which the United States is in the bigger context. It is on the decline. Let me finish this point before I get too far off my topic. So because Trump has consolidated mass popular support, because the West did put, the U.S. capitalist oligarchs did put him on magazine covers. They put him on TV shows. They made him a star, and then they made fun of him. And now they've made him. He's a pissed off guy who isn't allowed in the club. He's not in the club with J.P. Morgan, Jerome Powell, the heads of the capitals of the capitals of the capital of capitalism, the central bank of the United States. If the United States is the epitome, the prime superpower that backs the capital system and has been like the flag waver of that as a whole, then the central bank of the United States, headed by Jerome Powell, Trump directly assaulted them. The bank and Jerome Powell himself gone after Harvard, all the liberal universities, right? These are also the creators of the global oligarchic elite. These are the grooming facilities for future Mark Zuckerbergs and the future Jerome Powells and the future Ellisons and the future leaders, senators, presidents. And so Trump going after them is also a part of this backlash which they had against him, their creation, right? Frankenstein is coming out soon, right? And one says Trump is the creature, the Dr. Frankenstein is the liberal imperial capitalist structure, and Trump is their Frankenstein. They made him. But they made his presidency. MSNBC, Fox, and CNN gave Trump billions of dollars worth of free coverage, and that's how he became president. They made him. And now they have to lie in that burning, orange, flaming, riot, chaos, and balkanization-filled bed, And I'm not saying that because, like, I hope people suffer in the United States. I'm saying, like, that is just, like, the case. And now Trump is dividing the United States. Like, correctly, David Petraeus, just another point of why the U.S. is... actually, let me finish it up, then I'll come to the balkanization. So, what's happening... So, because Trump is consolidating power of who is loyal to him specifically, right? He's going through and going, who in the U.S. intelligence agencies, who in the USAID, I don't trust you, or NED, what are you for? I don't trust a lot of you, right? He's having people closest to him, loyal to him, rip up U.S. government, whether that's in the federal government, state governments. He's just ripping up. What do you do? What is your job? If I don't believe that you're either loyal to me. I don't think that you're necessary. Do you have any woke in you? Whatever that means to Trump's friends, right? Do you have any diversity, equity, and inclusion in you? Because those people, some of them have come after me. So some of this is personally. There's 25-year-old crypto bros who like went to university for 1 year at UCLA. They tried to date a goth chick, and the goth chick with the green hair, right? She had like, more autonomy than he's used to, and she was like demanding, hey, you have to respect me as a full human, and said no when he tried to put moves on her, and said like, he also, what do you think about patriarchy? And he's like, patriarchy, what are you talking about? And she said, well, we're not dating anymore. And that's a lot of the younger generation that's the sycophants of Trump, is disproportionately cis white straight guys that are going, I don't like this world where women, people of color, are getting educations, and we can't have our Stepford wife and the help and just like run the world like we used to under a white supremacist capitalist imperial man's world. And so those guys, if they look at you at the border, right? So if the hashtag AI, buy my AI based coin that replaces teachers with ripoffs of Chat GPT, the guy who made like 3 separate NFT crypto scams, and now he's trying to make another business, giving people mortgages for burritos like Klarna. If that guy, a 23-year-old MAGA white biz bro, looks at you, right, at the border or in the government or at your hearing, right, or when it's time to go through every single university professor, every single scientist, and go, do you deserve a job, right? If he looks at you and he sees somebody he doesn't like, so if you're one of those bros at the border and you see this woman and you're like, what? Wait. So you're saying that you have a career in film and television, you owned bars, right? In the mind of Trump's base, it's like, well, I don't like women who have educations. Like, they dumped me. So you're going into the, like, this, a lot of this is it's like it's totally not legal. It's totally not above board. It's totally horrible. But it's like, I don't like you because you look like my ex. I don't like you because you're not loyal to me. If you put, like, I've seen, there's actually a meme that's going around. It's like, it's a Mexican guy like playing Creed, so that it's actually hilarious because I think this is what it is, right? That's a lot of what it is. There's a meme of, if I can find it, there's a Mexican in a U.S. city, and he's like blasting Creed, so through his apartment, like, really loud. Creed is like this like Christian rock naughties band, right? It's like a white guy naughties band, and he's like blasting Creed in his apartment so that ICE won't break in because they think a white guy lived there. Let me say, I know I saved it, or is it? Shit, where is it? Okay, I got so many. Yeah. What, when you blast Creed so ICE thinks white people live here? But I mean, that's what it is, right? It's, do you look like somebody on my team? What's my team? Whatever Trump's hireling feels like today, right? Whatever Trump feels like. That's what it's like. Hey, you want to get rid of green-haired chicks and all the alt people and all the whatever you see? It doesn't even matter if you are a leftist or whatever, right? Liberal, whatever. You look like you have blue hair. You're going into cell now. You're gonna go be deported to Salvador. Get ready to mechanically separate Tyson chicken nuggets. Get ready to harvest the radishes, right? Get ready to work in the labor camp because I don't like you, right? U.S. citizen or not, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And that's what the ICE actions. That's a big part. That's not all of it, but that's a big part of what I feel the ICE is about. It's about saying like, how far can we take that, right? Which obviously that's increased mask off fascistic behavior, obviously. But that's really what it's about. And who will be loyal, right? Trump is like, can I take LA? Can I take New York? Can I get my forces? How much pushback will there be? Can I take who in the police, who in the military, right? Who will go with me? Down this, who is all in for it, right? ICE arrested a man without knowing his name or providing a warrant. Served in Afghanistan. So again, let's just again, it's just like you look like somebody that we don't like, and now it's time to go, and let's see how far we can push that. And obviously, it's like he's trying to trigger a response. He's trying to trigger a response. He's trying to trigger a response against his actions so that he can pull in more military. Right? It's a test. Just like January 6th. Who is loyal to me? Who in the military is loyal to me? Who in the government is loyal to me? Can I arrest Gavin Newsom? Can I arrest the Senator Padilla? Senator Padilla was arrested. So there's a U.S. senator. Did you know actually there's a U.S. senator and representative who just shot today? That didn't even make the news. Like a senator and a representative were both were shot. They're not alive. That didn't even make the news. The U.S. is obviously already cracked. It's already in a civil war. It's in a cold, not full shooting civil war already. It's been in that for a long time. And an important factor, like another factor that people are saying, that people are pointing out is that MAGA, even the MAGA business owners, right? The working class is like, when ICE comes, like they're rounding up all their friends and their family and their community members, and of course they're enraged at that. Especially in LA, which is half Latino, and places like that. But it's also the business owners actually need, and I've pointed this out in previous streams as well, which is like in the stream specifically about the U.S. is deindustrialized. What would it take for the U.S. to actually industrialize, right? And I pointed out that the United States needs the immigrants. The U.S. military needs the immigrants. Right, you have like disproportionate percentage of the U.S. military. Like there are, as a percentage, there's more immigrants in the military than a lot of other demographics. There's actually more women in the military, and there's more queer people, women, people of color in the military disproportionately than other demographics too. Which is, that's not the U.S. military does global imperial colonial white supremacist GENOC IDE across the whole planet. That's not. I'm not saying that's great in a grand scale, but like internally, like if you want to have a military, if you want to have industrialization, right? The tariff plan is also, this is self-defeating, obviously, foolishness. But he's not. Trump is not a grand strategist. He's a reality TV show host, right? He's Dr. Imperial Liberal Frankenstein's creature. That's stomping all over Dr. Frankenstein. That's the liberal oligarchic capitalist world stomping all over the face right now. So the reindustrialization plan with the tariffs, it's nonsensical. This is why it's hard to even believe that anybody could ever thought there could have been there ever was a reindustrialization plan, right? It's just kind of like, this kind of looked like a good thing to do and say at the time. Because if you actually round up, right, all these farmers, this is actually a video of a Mexican, a MAGA farmer. He's saying he needs his Mexican nationals to work on his farm. Without them, his business is gone, right? He said, "I'm in trouble, bad trouble." I'm just gonna, he's saying like, if I don't have these migrants, we're going under. Like, do you want to eat?
Most of your workers are here illegally.
That's sure. If they got documentation, they got a better job.
At the end, he says he's like, do you want to eat food? Like half the country is fed by these immigrants. And they ask him like, are they legal immigrants? He's like, no, they're not legal immigrants. This guy said, oh yeah, I'm not legal. But the white Republican MAGA farmer said, we need these undocumented immigrants, because a documented immigrant is going to seek out a job that pays twice as much because they can. Like they are not going to be working for $100 a day. I see this way. So that's not bad. So it could be, some people are paid less than that, but they're not going to work for $100 or $80 a day to do hard 8 hours a day of hard work, harvesting potatoes, harvesting radishes, harvesting the crops, working in the farm, doing that hard labor, right? Packing meat and stuff like that. Like, he just straight up said, like, I need these immigrants here. So if you want to keep on rounding them up, and then they're scared to even show up for work, the U.S. economy is going to absolutely explode. We're going to run out of food to eat. right? So this is a nonsensical policy. So I mean, either a like and it's not necessarily the deportations, remember, right? Because Democrats also deported, and they deported more, but the deportations and the ICE raids that Trump's doing now, right? What they're doing is not just people getting kicked out of the country. It's people are not showing up for work. People are not going to Home Depot. The undocumented immigrants are afraid of going into church, Home Depot, hospitals, where each of those have all been raided, right? They're afraid to show up for their farm jobs. They're afraid to show up anywhere, right? And so that's actually having, like, who knows what the percentage, 10, 20, 30, 50% drop in this vital. We know in 2020 in COVID, these were the people of color, immigrants were deemed, they were doing the vast majority of the essential labor, right? The non-essential BS jobs, David Graeber's Debt the First 5,000 Years and BS Job, Bullshit Jobs, the book, which he pointed out, he, as a white middle class, highly educated man, he said 70% of the jobs in the West are doing zero productivity or negative productivity. Finance, insurance, real estate, legal work, marketing, all this stuff is not, banking is not providing any actual value to the world. And but there are essential jobs, but that actually need to be done. And without them, people won't eat, people won't have roads, people won't have electricity. And it's mostly brown, not white people, not legal immigrants doing that. Not even the legal ones, the not legal ones. Right? Remember, he specifically said we need the not legal ones. And so Trump even admitted that, right? Trump recently said, like, oh, we're gonna if you got farmers working for 20, 25 years, I mean, we need those people. We got people working hotels. They got no papers, but we need those people. Right? So so what that actually tells us that, like, Trump is using I'm going to play to my base and just do this mass rounding up, as an excuse to further test and solidify my power that I can exercise and see who is loyal and who is not, and to escalate things, to bring in the military, to draw things up into, to push things back into a Black Lives Matter kind of Black Lives Matter level of tension, intensity, and crisis, right? Trump is pushing things towards the January 6th, not necessarily January 6th, but pushing things to break America further, right? Because think about it from his perspective. I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying he's a great guy, but if you think about it from Trump's perspective, he has been sued, arrested, attacked, Trump eats at McDonald's because he's afraid that at any second, like, there could be arsenic or cyanide in any of his meals if it doesn't come from a random, like, he has his professional McDonald's go-getters. I mean, these people have there's no low they won't stoop to. We just watch them unalive hundreds of thousands of children. Why would they? What's going to stop them going after octogenarian old white guy they don't like a lot? There were two assassination attempts on him. Remember, and people are like, oh well, that's not funny. That's part of the divided states. What's amazing is that there's two assassination attempts and he still became president again. Right? So, again, looking at the United States from that perspective, the sitting president, who has now, without even using the Insurrection Act, which is the one way you can circumvent posse comitatus, in the U.S. law. Just this past week, he also used the military to arrest American citizens. The U.S. Marines were arresting citizens. Importantly, like, there has already been one way in which we can see there is a civil war in the United States. Let's see. General. Now I want to bring this up because this is an important point. General Mattis, James Mattis, denounced Trump as threat to the Constitution. So when Trump took the United States, when Trump was ordering the U.S. military, right, he was using the U.S. military against U.S. citizens. He was already doing that, right? And Trump was threatening to begin a civil war against Black Lives Matter, anyone he deemed as his enemy, using the U.S. military. Again, it was like, I think it was Texas, Florida, and several other Republican states had troops, ammunition, and soldiers loyal to him were being moved into D.C. to prepare for a war, a Trump side versus Black Lives Matter and any liberals that might jump against Trump's side. The United States military and the liberal democratic global oligarchy that operates through the United States had to actually stand the Trump forces down, right? And this was part of why the Mattis had to write this letter. He was a Marine general, resigned as Secretary of Defense in 2018 to protest the Syria policy. And he wrote a broadside in which he denounced the president for dividing the nation, accused him of ordering the U.S. military to violate constitutional rights of American citizens. The thing is, so the U.S. generals, 4-star generals, some of them sided with Trump. Most of them sided with not Trump. Most of them sided with the liberals and the rest of the global capitalist plutocratic oligarchy that runs the United States. I mean, I don't like either of these. I don't like Goldman Sachs. I don't like Goldman Sachs. I don't like J.P. Morgan. I don't like BlackRock. I don't like giant mega corporations like Exxon, and the one that I'm being hosted from, unfortunately, because that's all we got, is freaking Torment Nexi to stream from in the West. But remember that it was the U.S., the U.S. corporations, banks, the liberal establishment. A lot of the politicians are kind of irrelevant. Those people they're just puppets of the oligarchy. It took Google. It took like the military members like Mattis and Petraeus. They had to order the military not to follow Trump's orders. It's true. The general said it right there. Trump was ordering the U.S. military to violate American citizens' rights. Trump is doing it again right now. He's ordering the military to arrest and attack American citizens. That's any other country doing that. If it was a country that's America's enemy, the U.S. would immediately be blasting this everywhere. China, Russia, failed state. Look, the Chinese military, this is what Tank Man is. Nobody actually got run over that, by the way. You watched the whole video. But, oh my gosh, like the Chinese military, Russian military is attacking their own citizens. This is authoritarian regime. U.S. is the country that has its military is attacking its own citizens. And the military is balkanizing. It's already fractured, right? And it took generals, right? So this is actually what happened in Bolivia. In Bolivia, half of the military backed by the U.S., as I said, Elon, whoever we want. Let me go through that one again, because it's actually a good comparison. It actually happened in a similar time frame in the late 2010s, right? The U.S. backed fascist coup under the Áñez administration, backed by the U.S. for Elon, the billionaire wanting to get cheap lithium, who literally admitted on Twitter to a Bolivian who said, you know what the people didn't need was a coup of our country backed by the United States to get the lithium there. And Elon said, we'll coup whoever we want. So we know that exactly what it was. It was global oligarchs like Elon using the United States, its intelligence and its military and its funding. The AOS is one of these participants to overthrow a country in the global south, back a coup, far-right extremist coup. They massacred indigenous people. These are some of them. Indigenous socialists on the MAS party, led by Evo Morales, were massacred, gunned down. But the Bolivian military broke into pieces. So half the military sided with the Air Force, and parts of the Army and Marines of Bolivia sided with Evo Morales and the indigenous socialists. And another 40%, including Camacho, who was a militant right-wing group that was bringing a lot of the foot soldiers, right? And there are also literal Sig Heiling fascists, not like actual Nazis, on the U.S. side of the Áñez fascist regime. And the military broke into pieces. It was a cold civil war. Well, it was a slightly warm civil war because there was shooting. But what happened was, and I remember there's a reporter, Oli Vargas, um, he talked about I forget I can't find exactly where that video is, but he has several videos about this. He would describe, you would come up to a checkpoint in Bolivia, right? So you come up to a checkpoint in Bolivia in this time. This is Agnes, the one Elon back. And at the checkpoint, you didn't know, like, if the soldier, if you wouldn't know if the soldier was, like, let me get a picture of that. You wouldn't know if the soldier that you were coming up to was on the side of Evo Morales and the socialists or on the U.S. backed fascist side, right? Agnes, she held up a giant Bible and she actually said, the indios, the indigenous indios, have to go back into the jungle, and we'll push the satanic, because 60% of Bolivia is indigenous. They were more in poverty, live in the rural and the altiplano and the higher areas, right? They're Quechua, the Guarani, the various indigenous members, various indigenous nations there. But and the cities are actually in South America, a lot of places where actually the historically white colonizer wealthy forces are, or wealthy populations are. So it's almost reverse of the United States. For historical reasons, the differences between Spanish and colonization versus the Anglo and the North American colonization. But anyway, so at the checkpoints, you didn't know what side. If you're on the wrong side, if you're on the wrong side, if you're on the wrong side of the checkpoint, if the military stopped you right at the checkpoint and you were siding with Evo Morales, they might just shoot you right there. If they were on the fascist U.S. backside to coup for the lithium, if you were on the fascist side and then you got stopped and you had a picture of the enemy right in your car, they might just shoot you or they take you away at the checkpoint. But you didn't know until you got to the checkpoint, right? During the civil war in Bolivia, during the coup and the destabilization, you didn't know which side the military personnel were on until you got there. Now, this was ultimately resolved. Now, they still have problems. I'm not saying they still have a lot of problems there. And then Evo is actually back in. He was pushed back into. He had multiple assassination attempts on him as well. And our country is still having a lot of problems mostly because of the global imperialists, and the U.S. is obviously a big part of that. But my point is that, like, when the country splits, it doesn't necessarily get the lines redrawn on the map, right? Like, Bolivia didn't have new lines drawn in on the. If you look at the map of Bolivia, there wasn't a line that says this is North Bolivia and South Bolivia. It was all Bolivia, but the country was fractured along the allegiance to was the legitimate government, right? Each and the individuals in the military could have different allegiances. And there's a movie called Alex Garland, Civil War, in which there's a scene where Kirsten Dunst is. I have a video that's partially a review of this movie. But there's a scene where Kirsten Dunst's boyfriend or husband, the guy in the orange glasses, he asks everybody at a checkpoint. There's a giant pile of dead bodies, right? America is already broken up into pieces, and the U.S. is balkanized, right? Into there's the California Republic, Western Forces, Florida Alliance, New People's Army, and Loyalist States, right? And this guy in the South, this white. Very, very MAGA coded kind of guy is asking, like, what kind of American are you, right? And if you say the wrong answer, or he doesn't like your accent, or you look like you're from China, or one of the guys says I'm from Florida, and he's like, no, what kind of American are you? Central American, South American? And he says Florida, and he says no, that's Central American. And then he blows one of his friends away because, like, that you're not the real America, right? And so the difference between this, right, of, like, when this Canadian got to the border, that it's not necessarily even Trump. It's like that particular enforcer said, I don't think you're not the people we need in this country. We don't need liberal, educated women in this country. People like you are destroying our country, right? You SJW, Feminist is the cancer. Women like you are why I am single now. Like I have a kitsune waifu body pillow. I'm lonely. I have all these crispy socks around me, and I'm working for the military. I couldn't get into the military official forces, so now I'm a border guard. And it's women like you with educations. You're destroying this country. I mean, it doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter even if you're white. It's just like this is the wrong kind of people. We don't need these people. And I have the gun now. I have the gun. I have the badge. And now you're going. The difference between Civil War and the movie, where it's like you're not the you're I think you're from Mexico. You ain't a real American. Real Missouri, Colorado, white. That's the real American. Caucasian. That's the real American. You're not a real American. Bang. Where are you from? Where are you from? And he said, English better come out your mouth. He points out the Asian guy, and the guy is like screaming, and he's crying. His friend just got shot, and he's like, where are you from? And he's like, I can't. And he's like, you can't what? What you can't? What do you mean you can't? You can't speak? You can't speak English? And he's like, ah. And when he finally talks, he says, where are you from? And he says, Hong Kong. And he's like, China. And then he just shoots him, right? So the difference between Civil War and the current Trump regime is instead of just shooting you if they don't like you, they put you in a labor camp indefinitely. Or they deport you to a Salvador torture facility where Ron DeSantis can work on you like he worked on people in Guantanamo for the CIA. And not specifically him, but he did. Or just to do whatever they feel like. So in that sense, the U.S. is in Civil War. The U.S. is in the movie. The U.S. is partially in the movie Civil War. There's nobody's in charge. The liberals are saying let's be nonviolent and be peaceful. The Trump and his forces are saying go ahead and be nonviolent. The part of the thing is, and this is like a left liberal thing happening there, which is like they're already being violent. We can't use nonviolence against a violent oppression, and also the presser defines violence. They're always going to define what we do as violent. And and the liberal is some of the very well placed ones are like, if it ever gets really bad, I'll just get on a jet and I'll fly to Geneva or I'll fly to my bunker in New Zealand. I was planning to nuke the world anyway. 50% of the liberal class, 50%, the Democrat Biden, Pelosi, Clintonites, the Jen Psaki's and the Anthony Blinkens, those people, they got a report from their intelligence that if they did this strike on the early warning nuclear early warning radar that detects incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles that the U.S. struck using Ukraine as a proxy, right, inside Russian territory, the U.S. intelligence, the liberals were told that there was a 50% probability that it would start nuclear war and end life on Earth. And the Blinken Biden administration said, go ahead with it. So they're already prepared to end the world. Like that's where the liberals are at. I mean, at the highest level, at least. A lot of the average, working and middle class, middle class, upper, even like low upper class, middle. I don't know if they're there, but the leadership of the liberals have already threatened the end of the world multiple times. Full nuclear war. These people are absolutely These people are absolutely Dr. Strangelove. You know what I'm saying? Gavin Newsom and the Senate and the high level administration officials, their plan is basically, if things go really bad, I'm going to try to get into Raven Rock. So, I'm not saying don't go to the No Kings protest. I'm not saying like vote for Trump. You're not going to get to vote next time. Your vote never mattered. It's really not going to matter next time. It's extremely it's extremely probable you're going to be in, not this situation, but you're already in this situation minus getting shot, because it's not Bolivia. Again, and like I want to point out, like this Civil War is, Alex Garland, the director, he was a journalist for years before he became a director, and he reported on war zones like in Iraq, and he couldn't handle it. Actually, he said he quit because he was too much of a coward. Basically, he's actually good of him to say that. He said, I just couldn't handle it. It was too hard to like be in that war zone, like, or try to actually report. The thing is, a lot of the Western media, corporate media, is lying and war propaganda and just having staged Hollywood photo ops with tires lit on fire and saying we have to send in more weapons and money to this U.S. backed proxy. But like but there is a real precedent, which is Bolivia is not the only country, by the way, where the country was split in half, and then right, depending on what side of a divide of an internal civil war, right, the soldier that platoon, that area is, right, and you don't know, right, depending on what side they are, how much food, how low their blood sugar is, do they feel like, right, what do they feel like doing, like what does the ICE feel like doing today when you fly in from Britain at the border? What does that guard, what does the TSA feel like doing to you today? If they're feeling a little bit tired, like I don't want to exert energy, they might just let you through. But maybe they feel like a liberal girlfriend, right? A liberal girlfriend who didn't like them because they voted Trump, just broke up, and now they want to take it out on somebody, and now it's time for you to go away for a month in a cold cell, right? Because they can do that, because they're doing that. Not they can do that. They are doing that. They're just doing it, right? And that's also where, like, actions like the de-arresting is being called violent. The Florida governor just said, we're gonna just if you try to interfere with the police, you're gonna be graveyard dead. That was the Florida, one of the Florida police, I forget if it was a police chief, but it was one of the Florida police spokesperson was like, if you try to interfere with what we're doing with law enforcement, you're going to a hospital, or if you really get in our way, you're graveyard dead. So that's that's how they play in South America. So North America, Norte Americana. So you gotta become Norte. You gotta be not Mexico Americana, but you really want to become you really want democracy. You can see what the democracy the U.S. exports to the world now. You're going to see some real democracy now in America. I mean, that's what they're thinking. I'm not saying that that's good. It's not good. It's not good for anybody to see that, right? But so James Mattis. Just to wrap this point up, and I gotta go soon. So there were 4-star generals had to stand Trump down and basically order the military. The generals had to push the military, not the soldiers, right? Because soldiers, at the end of the day, it's the people with the guns and people with the Air Force, people with the flying the planes, people doing the calculation of ballistic missile trajectories, like what the U.S. its backed GONOCIDE regime is doing with IRAN right now. Those people they have to make decisions about who to follow. The governor of California is saying stand down. Liberals are saying stand down. Trump is saying keep going. Who do I follow, right? This is already happening. This has already happened more than once in the United States. Each time that happens, that's a mini coup, right? Technically, remember, there were Marines this week that were ordered. There were Marines that were ordered to suppress and attack American citizens, right? Now, technically, that's a violation of the Constitution. The U.S. military forces are not supposed to be acting against domestic populations. That's why they have a separation of the military and the domestic police and the FBI law enforcement. Trump ordered the military, his forces ordered the military to attack and arrest American citizens. That's a test. It's a test to see if the Marines will follow. Will the Marines go with me when I need them to help me seize full control of the United States, or seize more control of the United States? And so that U.S. is not a democracy. U.S. is already just collapsing, balkanizing, failing imperial core. A basket case failed state. Where is it? This is the Florida sheriff saying he's threatening to kill anyone, unalive anyone, anti-ICE, and he offers multiple graphic sadistic descriptions. So that's where you're at. You're just going to be mass unaliving protesters. That's where the U.S. is at. You have open the G squad. So again, like, so the liberals saying we have to not be violent, we have to not be violent, we have to be not violent. Like, if you aren't a billionaire or a billionaire who has an escape plan, you might really think about that. You know, what does it mean? Like, if you know, because there's gonna be a lot of people out for the No Kings, and that's great, that's nice, right? That's nice. That's not gonna stop ICE. You know, 3 million people standing in the street holding a sign, and then you go home and you go back to brunch. Did that stop the mass George Floyd mass police unalivings, mass incarceration? No, it increased the next year. Standing around holding a sign, I mean, that's nice to show, like, you know, feelings you have. And Trump and his forces, they don't care what your feelings are. They're like, oh, you feel that way? Let's go. Time to go into the cell now. You don't like me? Okay, well, now there's a target on you. You don't like Trump. You don't like this administration. You don't like MAGA, whatever we think that is. Oh, that's thank you for pointing yourself out that you're our enemy, because we're at war, right? Just, I mean, to give you another, just to give you a similar example. If you're in Bolivia and if you're in Bolivia, I mean, if you're in Bolivia and you were like, I don't like the U.S.-backed fascist dictatorship that is cooing Bolivia so that United States oligarchs can steal Bolivia's lithium, take 99% of profit and keep it, and pay the oppressed workforce 1% in Bolivia. So if you're like, I don't like you, then the soldier will be like, oh, you don't like my leader? Thank you for telling me that. Bang. Right? You don't like my leader? That's nice. That's nice. Now you're dead. Now there's less of you. So the liberals, and it's not quite that extreme, but I mean, you're really close. Like, the Marines aren't pulling out the gun and just shooting you if you're on the wrong side, but they will take you and they put you in a cell. I mean, in some senses, if you say, well, I don't like Trump, and then you go in a cell forever, if you go to El Salvador, you get tortured, that could be worse than death. Or you don't like my guy, well, you're going away. So the liberal going, we just gotta show our feelings and make sure everybody knows that we're all on the same side and we're all united. Americans aren't united. Americans aren't united. The United States is not able to provide the material conditions for its population. The United States does not have legitimacy worldwide. The United States is going to be running out of food as the climate change progresses. The United States, the liberals that are already charged, they have already increased the wealth of the richest. They've already made the lives of the working class a lot worse. They let everybody fall by the wayside in a mass eugenics project called the last COVID 5 years. Like I keep pointing out every 3 months. The United States is not united. The United States never really was united. The U.S. empire is collapsing. In the greater context, you have to see that the BRICS. I mean, obviously, we got to point this out. Vietnam just joined BRICS, by the way. So that's a huge ally that was going to keep the imperial plunder. That is what bribes the masses of the West, not just the U.S., but the U.S., Canada, Europe, all the usual suspects. And BRICS is now dominating the world. I mean, yeah, they're trying to start wars in the Middle East. They're fighting wars all over the Eurasian continent. It's not going to stop the rise. The United States is running out of the bread and the circuses to throw out there. Like the internet is like failing. The internet is falling apart. That's part of why the AWS and the Google are having these problems. And it's enshittification. There's no like. It's one thing to say, well, okay, well, if Trump is put away, if Trump is removed, the next Democrat that comes into power is gonna fix the problems of the divided United States, right? The divided states that are on thin ice, right? It's gonna be fixed once Biden 2.0 comes back. When HOLOCAUST Harris gets in charge in 2028, the problems of America will be fixed. Absolutely not. I don't see any evidence that the basic, because if the government, at the end of the day, if governments are unable to provide the basic material needs to the population, food, housing, healthcare, like basic material, some kind of basic security, that government is going to keep losing its legitimacy. It's going to have to cling to power. I mean, obviously, definitely a capitalist, oligarchic, imperialist government is going to have to really cling to power if it wants to keep the billionaires and the rich capitalists plundering the underclasses. There's no sign, right? The rich got richer under Democrats. 99% of policy, according to Gillen's and Page, the study that shows that basically all policy is determined by the money, not by votes, not by the whims and the desires of the people. The U.S. government is not by the people, of the people. Absolutely not in any sense of the word. Anyone that believes that is just a success of the mass consent manufacturing that is Western media, education, and the whole matrix of that full-scale mind control system that is the Western so-called culture, discourse, etc. And there's no evidence that even if Democrats came in charge, they're going to fix the problems. They're just going to keep liquidating the country for the oligarchs that they work for, and they're going to take a cut of that, as they were doing under Biden. Now, Trump is doing it more blatantly, more crassly, using military and law enforcement forces, but it's not going to. There's right, and so like, the idea. Well, we're just going to all pull together under Gavin Newsom. We're going to pull together under AOC and Bernie if we just all stand together and stand against the tyrant, and it's going to all get better. I'm not saying don't stand against the tyrant, but it's going to take. It's not going to take voting in what the Democrats and liberals are trying to do is they're trying to like keep their careers going a little longer before they jump into a nuclear bunker. They're trying to keep their careers going a little longer by milking the justified anger and enragement of the masses at Trump, but they're not going to change anything. We can't forget they just did the worst thing possible, genocide. They oversaw the entire 16 months of that. And yeah, Trump is, still supporting the entity doing that. But they already did the worst possible thing. There's no anyone that believes, oh well, we're gonna come back from that and we'll just, we're gonna come back from Auschwitz and just be like normal now. None of the leaders that are actually going into the front line, none of them are waving Palestinian flag. These people are all soaked in blood. So there's I mean like that that's I mean I'm just saying that that's the case. So I mean I don't know, the US, you can do whatever you want to do, what I think is probably going to happen is number one, like that's why we have to support the direct actions to stop get in the way, interfere with any direct any attempts to let me back up a sec. So like there's some people that are calling for we have to follow the law, which is very liberal. If you're in the United States legally, you have nothing to fear. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you're legal, again, middle class Dutch, whiter than printer paper white, totally legal, Dutch immigrant, father of four U.S. citizens, was deported. The legality of your actions are irrelevant. Even if you are a white person, it used to be, if you're black or brown, it was always irrelevant. If you're white, you could kind of hide behind a little bit. If you're white or you're somewhat has some privilege or some kind, or a little bit have some money, you got to hide behind that and go like, America is a country of laws. They kind of sort of pertain to you for the most part. But if you're black or brown, they just round you up for standing in front of 7-Eleven. That was never illegal, right? That's why I say from a black or brown or from a marginalized perspective, you're a trans indigenous person of color. If you're just an indigenous person, they're just grabbing your land. They give you body bags during the pandemic. They're just violating treaties left and right, violating your rights, sicking dogs on you at the DAPL, water protecting, right? So, but if you're a white, you could choose to feel sad about black and brown indigenous people. But if you're white and middle class, you could choose not to and just pretend like America's a good country. But now you can't be white and middle class and pretend like now they'll come after anyone. Well, you can be super ultra pro MAGA. You better be blasting Nickelback. You better be like you better look like a trad wife. You better be doing cottagecore TikToks. You know what I'm saying? You better be blonde. You better look like a Fox News anchor. You better blast Creed. You better wear that MAGA hat. You put that MAGA hat on, okay? It don't matter. Even the whiteness don't even matter. The wealth is kind of becoming irrelevant. It don't matter. You better be on that side. You're on the wrong side, right? So that's where no, there's still privilege of other kinds and that, because you have the privilege to like have access to the money. But when it comes to like dealing directly with the U.S. military, dealing directly with the U.S. government, and that's the new thing about the 2025, right? Is that middle class and privileged people, white people, are starting to get a taste of what it was like, what it has been like to be black, brown, and illegal immigrant the whole entire time. The whole entire time, people like us were always living in terror. But now some liberals are gonna getting that a little bit. They're like, oh my God, people could just like do illegal things to me. The U.S. has always been doing illegal things to everyone. The U.S. government has been doing illegal things all over the goddamn planet. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know if you noticed, but starving little children to death, that's illegal. Under the Genocide Convention in the United Nations. I don't know if you know that. That's what your country has been doing under the Democrats. In case you don't know that. But I think a lot of people, there's also a capacity to compartmentalize all these things and go like, this is not who we are. Whenever you feel like it, when it's brunch time, it's not who we are. And I can just like spend all my life playing video games, and I make video games. I love video games, but you can't spend all your life playing video games and going to brunch and sticking your finger in the ear and saying you're a good person because you voted the right way. You didn't vote the right way. If you voted for any of the two major parties that have ever won in the United States, you voted the wrong way. You're not a good person. You're not a good person just because you did that duty. That's not sufficient. But a lot of people don't want to hear that. That's the hard truth. I'm sorry. I see a bunch of people felt really sad about that and they left the stream. But but I mean that's the hard truth. That it's that like there's been the states have been divided. They are divided. They have been divided. They are divided. They've divided other people around the world. The ICE deportations are not going to stop. Or not the ICE. It's just the ICE military and other forces just grabbing people off the street. That's like Argentina 1970s. That's like Colombia a lot of the time until very recently. Right? Just grabbing people off the street. That's what happens in Ukraine. They grab people on the street, put them in a van, 12, 40, 50, but you go to the front line. They put you in a van, they take you to a facility with a black bag on your head, and they give you a gun. They say, time to go fight. The U.S. does that everywhere, right? This is the thing. The liberals have been having people all around the world. The regimes that the liberals have backed around the world have grabbed people off the street and put them in vans, thrown them out the helicopter, thrown them into a unknown, detention facility, put you in Guantanamo, blast matchbox 20 at 100 decibels, flash the lights on and off so you can't sleep, do sleep deprivation torture, right? Democrats have done that. Republicans also done that. But now the United States is just doing what it does in South America to its own citizens. Because, right, and the liberals tend to do more global imperial oppression and then grabbing wealth through the differential between the African, Asian, and Latin American wages and access to the resources. They focus on that and then give inside the imperial metropole of the United States, inside to their own citizens, they give at least they kind of try to show we're nice, we care about black and brown people and indigenous people and queer people and women. We love you so much, right? Never mind they codify Roe v. Wade. Never mind the black population is being 90% of all the black people that go to jail, they go to jail under Democrat-run police precincts that are all in the blue cities where they are. and they bomb more on average and make more war, and certainly in the recent history than even the Republicans. So, but the liberals, right? They have they're Malcolm X's fox. The Republicans are the wolf, the fox that smiles while it pretends to be a friend while it eats you, and the wolf that is obviously there to eat you, and it's a little easier to get away from. But so the liberal democratic regimes, they have plundered the rest of the planet and harmed the rest of the planet disproportionately more than the Republicans. They both harm in the domestic and the foreign, right? There's 96% of the planet isn't the United States population, but when it comes back to the Republicans and Trump in particular, but it's really all the Republicans, they focus more on the domestic repression, right? And as I've pointed out on previous streams, Trump is also focusing on a neo-mercantilist, McKinleyite, as in the sense of the U.S. is a great power, an empire that is in its sphere of influence, U.S., Canada, Mexico, right? And McKinley focused on the islands around, like Puerto Rico, Philippines, Hawaii, and trying to control, and use tariffs as well to control and subjugate and dominate in a hard power, hard colonial 1800 sense, the countries and the lands in its vicinity, like in the Western Hemisphere, right? The liberals are more post-World War II, liberal global U.S. superpower empire with a Mickey Mouse happy, nice face that hides Emperor Palpatine true visage, right? That's trying to get all the world's resources, all the minds of the world into the United States, into the Harvards, right? It's funny because Trump is going, oh yeah, we love the Chinese students now. I mean, it's just that's a weird the way he's dealing now is it's just like it's more like just like flopping every day to day, week to week. It's very even for his so-called act tough and then try to cut a good deal, like it's kind of ridiculous, broken strategy. He maybe he is completely losing it. But so inside the United States, there is definitely massive increased repression to make America what they would say would be made to make America great, or to make whatever the Trump and his MAGA followers feel is great, what a great America would look like. And so and that's not, I mean, again, that's not great. I mean, none of it is great. If you're inside the United States, if you're inside the United States, it can feel and look, and for some people it's worse when there's a conservative Republican like Trump in charge. If you're liberal, then the whole planet and everything feels it more because they're more competent imperialists. But obviously, but as the U.S. collapses, as the U.S. empire collapses, which it absolutely is, as I already pointed out, the Chinese technology is science fiction compared to the United States. There's 6th gen fighters, the J-10 and the new J series fighters make the U.S. look like children's toys. Their economy, like everything the U.S. relies on, even Besant and the Trump administration is like begging China to give them some of the technology and the key imports and rare earths, because the U.S. industry can't even function without it. The U.S. is not even close to the number one. The U.S. is not even close to significant in the Chinese economy now, as it arguably you could have said that a decade ago, but not now. And the BRICS is rising. The global majority is rising. The multipolarity is happening at the same time as these things are happening, right? Israel is trying to pull the U.S. into this. Israel and the U.S. are together spiraling down this, and also Britain and NATO are all spiraling down this unhinged, self-destructive, final lashing out, which Iran has struck with like just countless. They're not even sharing this, but like there are non-Western sources that are showing that there's like just like barrages of missiles all over their little West Asian settler colony that's lighting up their oil fields, it's lighting up their headquarters. It's just the Iron Dome doesn't even work. So and that's another facet that's simultaneously happening as the U.S. implodes. So it's a new moment, and it's I don't know, but what we can say is that like the responses from the population, because a lot of this might seem like I'm just like hoping bad things happen to Americans. I'm not saying I hope bad things happen to people in the United States of America, but people need to be like real about what is happening, right? People need to understand like what is or try to understand what is. That's what I try to do. Is I try to give you the truth as best as I can manage. I mean, it might be painful to hear, but I mean that's what I try to do, which is that the actions that are being taken by ICE and various branches of the military, various branches of National Guard, ordered by Trump, but not all of them. These are they are not getting criminals. They're not deporting people that are in violation of their visas. They're just rounding up people as an intimidation, terrorist tactic. They are trying to break up communities. They're trying to I don't think they really want to tank the US economy much further. That doesn't necessarily help Trump to do that. But one of the impacts is tourism to the United States is dropping. It does one thing is, if you have mass rounding up of people in LA, if you have huge explosions of these uprisings in LA, New York, and the blue cities, then the tourism to most tourism is to New York, LA. People will come to the US to see the Statue of Liberty and go to LA and see Hollywood. They're not coming to red flyover states. So that's another part of it. But number one, I think, is to test the United States. It's a testing ground to see how far the U.S. can be pushed. Is to push the U.S. into a more crisis state. In the same way, I mean, this is also what Isn't Real has been doing, right? The leader of Isn't Real is pushing them constantly into the most crisis, the highest state of crisis possible, because also the current leadership, right, is very unpopular, right, and it has to by pushing them into more and more war, more and more into more extreme circumstances with more violence, more chaos, more instability, then any kind of retribution becomes harder to. It becomes harder for not necessarily accountability, but for his enemies to exact revenge. For his enemies to come after him, it becomes harder, right? So for Trump, Trump has enemies in the Democrats. Trump has enemies in liberals. Trump has enemies in the left. Trump has enemies all over the place, right? The higher a state of already existing civil war, already existing cold civil war, balkanization, which is, again, and one more time, because I didn't really finish that point, when the U.S. military, when branches of the military had to stand down the other half, that was from one side it was a treasonous act. When Trump was not elected, and half the country viewed Trump as being the legitimate president, all of the liberals and Democrats were committing treason from that perspective, right? And from the liberal side, right, Trump as a felon, as a tyrant, he has never been viewed by a lot of them, right? It's actually the average liberal Democrat has never viewed Trump as a legitimate president. It was always stolen, right? And maybe Russia helped rig the votes, or whoever else helped rig the votes. Trump was never legitimate. And that's another major difference. That's another difference between the 2020s versus the 90s. I have to point that out. When Bill Clinton was elected in 1992, right, the Democrats and the Republicans, right, whether you voted Democrat as a citizen, regular person, if you were a senator or representative, right, or a Democrat or a Republican judge or Republican governor, right, the people and the government officials and the U.S. as a whole, all of all types, the American populace agreed. The Republicans conceded, right? They conceded the victory of Bill Clinton, whether you like Bill Clinton or not, they conceded. They did come after him with lawsuits for Monica Lewinsky and the sex scandals of that time. And they tried to remove him from power. But that was based upon, it was low down and dirty because American politics and Western politics is low down and dirty. But they never said Bill Clinton is not a legitimate president, despite the attacks on him. When George Bush was elected, a lot of people didn't like George W. Bush, and there was even some questionable actions in the Florida election of the ballot counting. But like the Democrats conceded that George Bush was the president of the United States. Even under Obama, a lot of people didn't like Obama. There were questions of his legitimacy of his birth certificate, whether he's a true American, blah 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 blah. But by and large, the Republicans and Democrats all agreed, and the other side conceded that Barack Obama was the president of the United States, the rightfully elected president of the United States, the head of state, blah 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 blah. When it came to the Trump election and the Trump presidency, and then after the Biden presidency, there's never the liberal Democrats never actually conceded. They never really fully conceded in any real sense that Trump was the president of the United States. And Trump definitely, and a lot of the Trump electorate, like again, basically almost half the country did not accept Biden as president, and they had the alternate narrative. That's why we have to stop the steal. We have to stop the Democrats from stealing Trump's rightful 2020 victory. That's why that's the big part of the January 6th election. And since that's why I say for the last 5 years, there has never been a United States of America. It's always been in a mini civil war, a cold, not shooting civil war since that time. There hasn't been an agreement on who president of the United States is. There was a brief respite. I mean, since Biden was elected, there was lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. If you look at what liberals say, they don't accept Trump ever having been the legitimate president. They always view him as being a felon and a criminal, by and large. Right? The Democrats have never accepted him as being a legitimate president. Russia put him there. He was never legitimate. He stole the election. I mean, again, everything that he's done has been horrible things, right? But the other thing, okay, well, if Trump is illegitimate, and he was sued, he was a felon, he was convicted of felonies, which he did. But if the United States, this is another taking the temperature of the United States, this is why it's a collapsed, like basically failed state, pretending to be a functioning society. It's already basically semi-balkanized. It's already in a state of civil war. Is that if Trump actually was treasonous, he was a felon, he is illegitimate, as Democrats, liberals are saying, which, I mean, he's definitely a criminal. No doubt about that. And if a treasonous, felonious criminal who has tried to steal the election illegitimately through a coup, which he did, if that person, right, in any normal functioning country, he should not be able to become president again, right? He should be behind bar. He should be punished, and at minimum not be able to run, if worse, right? Like in functioning country, the West don't have any of those, but I mean in a functioning country, in an actual some kind of legitimate civilization, democracy, republic, whatever you want to call it. But then Trump became president of the United States again. How is that possible? It's only possible because the Democrats themselves are mega criminals. They themselves are treasonous to their own people, and they work for a billionaire and a capitalist, and they've committed the worst crimes possible. They, kind of makes it takes anything Trump does and it makes it look like, well, that's actually not, he didn't go full on and do all of what the Democrats did. So the United States has absolutely no legitimacy as a whole. In the eyes of its population, it never did. It's, again, 99% of all the policy is not what the American people want. Most Americans, even Republicans, if you put them all together, even Republicans want they want Medicare for all. They want a minimum lower healthcare prices. They want money to go into the roads and bridges and building America's infrastructure, providing affordable living wages, housing, cleaning their water, having affordable food, basic needs being met. Everybody in America obviously wants that, by and large, the average person, right? The U.S. government is absolutely illegitimate in that sense, right? And the Democrats are also literally criminal in the sense of all the internal corruption, all the insider trading, all the war crimes like you name it. I mean, there's no bottom for them either, right? So the fact that a convicted felon that has lost these criminal cases could still get elected. I mean, as horrible as he is, the fact that he could still get elected, that shows how far the U.S. has slid, and that there's still no agreement in the United States over who is a legitimate president. There is currently the U.S. Marines. Some of them were doing malicious compliance, where they were basically just training when they were deployed to LA to suppress the anti-ICE actions, the American citizens. Some of those military spokespeople have come out and said General Milley, right? In other words, General Mark Milley, Biden's commander in chief, came out and called Trump a tyrant, a dictator, a wannabe dictator, and you don't take an oath to him, you take oaths to the Constitution. So the U.S. So Mark Milley, like Mattis, right? Again, it's the military is fractured. The U.S. military is fractured. If you need to have generals come out, I mean, if this was in the 1990s, behavior like that, America would call that a dystopian nightmare. They would have said that was a failed state. They're like, what are we, North Korea? I mean, don't insult North Korea like that. You know, like, what are we, Russia? Like, you know, don't focus on yourself. You know, but like, if it was the 1990s, and you said that the United States president would have actively tried to overthrow the country, seize total totalitarian actual authoritarian control, fail, get sued by the other side, never go to prison, never actually be punished, and then run again. The United States also tried to rig the election. The Democratic Party also tried to rig their election last time, right? This is why they're all criminal, right? There's no not criminal side in the United States political system, right? Let me see if I can find that one. That's another important video I made about that. Where is that one? Yeah, not that one. Is the U.S. a democracy? Yeah, this one. In this video, I point out that the Democrats actually removed Trump by, I think, judicial order or just unilateral actions by their various governors. The Democratic Party removed Trump from like half of their states that they controlled ballot. And then Trump responded by threatening to remove Biden from the Texas ballot and a couple others. And then the Democrats stood down, right? So but do you see what was happening there, right? Was that the United States, the Democrats were basically doing anything they possibly could. The thing is, even the Bernie Sanders election, right? I'm not a big, actually not, Bernie Sanders is basically a liberal imperialist tool, and he's a Z word, and that's not great. But like, even Bernie Sanders, like, everybody could watch the Democrats commit massive crimes of all kinds, you know, just discounting, just doing anything possible to stop the ballots from being counted, interrupting, using superdelegates, all of this, just absolute, dastardly behavior to interfere with democracy, right? And then Bernie is just like, okay, I'll do whatever you say, master, right? And then just, said, we got to keep doing GENOCIDE and PALSTINE. That's Bernie now. Anyway, he's always been that, basically. But even in that sense, right? Like, the Democrats have committed mass fraud themselves, and they're not going to be held to account. So Trump's like, hey, if you guys are going to rig your own primary, I'm going to rig whatever I can. And the Democrats in the last in the 2024 ballot, they again tried to rip him off of all the ballots. And it was only when a couple of Republican states responded by trying to remove Biden, then the Democrats said, okay, well, maybe we'll slow down a little on that, right? But liberal and a lot of Americans just want to brush that under the rug, right? But we can't. If you want to be honest about what your state, your country, it's never been in a democracy, but the facade of the democracy, the facade of the American democracy, of Western democracy, right, is an absolute shambles. It's a joke. It's just, they're not even going through the motions of this anymore. And then you have Gavin Newsom, but the problem with America is people have like gnat length not length, attention spans, and like Gavin Newsom or AOC can come out and go, this is not who we are, and everybody just like believes them, or just like, oh yeah, absolutely, we're 100% democratic, and once we get like you all these people have sold their souls down the tubes, like they've sold whatever democracy there was is long gone. It's like history, right? That history repeats, as farce. Like, but this whatever the whole U.S. failed experiment was always not a democracy. It was always a plutocracy of landed cis white straight male aristocrats that wanted slavery, and the slavery side won. Britain offered slaves freedom to fight against the American so-called revolutionaries, the American pro-slaveryists, in the so-called American Revolution War. So this was stolen indigenous land, stolen African slave. That's what America's been. Capitalist, racist, imperialist hell from the start to the finish, which is soon. And but even the pretense that there's a democracy there, this has been gone a long time. But America and AI Gen News, right, and talking to ChatGPT and Grok, is this true? Right, and people, and the mind is so fractured and broken, and even if you have an education, it's mostly half truths and outright lies anyway, even from a university, that people can't even get they're like losing. They never really had a sense of where their country is. But if you told Americans in the 90s, again, if you told Americans in the 90s that the Democratic Party would try to delete the name of a Republican, like you said, oh, Bill Clinton will win in 1996 by deleting Bob Dole, or if you said Bill Clinton will win the presidential election by just removing, or he'll try to win by removing George Bush's name, George H.W. Bush's name, off of the ballot, they would have said that's not a democracy. Any American in the 90s, right? If you told anyone in the 2000s, you know what we're going to do? What's going to happen is George W. Bush is going to attack the capital of the United States and try to overthrow the United States so that he can stay in power, right? Any Republican or Democrat would say that's like tin pot dictatorship. That's not America. That's not a democracy. If you showed America to Americans 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, any one of them would say, you didn't say where it was, you just said this is what's happening. They would say that place is absolutely catastrophically collapsed. That's an authoritarian regime. We gotta do something about that. We gotta go blow that place up and put a democracy in. America goes around the world and puts those things in. Now America's just doing an America on itself today, in the last 10 years, as it collapses and it has to, do a austerity banana republic, milk the cow fully before it completely explodes. But America is Americaning. It's doing an American Western imperialism to itself in one sense. But it's kind of weird because it's like, well, that's where we run our show from. It's like NIMBY, but now it's like YIMBY, right? America's like, yes, let's Monroe Doctrine ourselves. Like, yes, let's try to do what we try to do in Burkina Faso. Shout out to Burkina Faso and Africa for rising. That's another important factor. While this is falling apart, this is not 2020. Africa, 1 billion people are coming online and building. Africans are going to have a better quality of life. They have free housing in Burkina Faso. There's free universal health care in multiple countries in Africa. Every day there's more progress being made. This is, Americans and Westerners are not even getting this news because, they live in the Caucasoid world. And they don't want to look at the nightmare, which is the equality actually establishing itself and real freedom and democracy and human rights happening in the world. Most of the world is not white. So they're really sad and pissed off about that and in denial about that. And also I wanted to point out that the way that fascism was stopped, right? If you this is the nonsense of liberals. The nonsense of liberal is the way you say, what are we, a bunch of Nazis? What are we, a bunch of totalitarian? What are we, this is not who we are. Fascism was not stopped by standing outside and holding a sign and saying, I don't like Hitler. In that fascism in Germany, fascism was not stopped by, okay, well let's try to sue Hitler a lot. Let's make 100 lawsuits against him. Let's all get law degrees. Let's all be like really civil with Hitler. That's not actually how it was stopped. Most people don't want to even acknowledge the history of the country that actually did the stopping of it. But I'll give you a hint. It was not through nonviolent means that he was stopped. And the liberal in the United States, which is a big chunk, liberal and conservatives, like still a huge chunk of the United States, they don't want to. The conservatives just like, well, we just want to be Hitler. A lot of them, not all of them, but the liberal and conservatives that are in that, well, we're just gonna litigate our way through this. We're gonna vote him out. That's how Hitler went out, because Hitler, right? He was removed when he was voted out, right, by highly educated, very smart people who went to Berlin University and they have liberal arts degrees. That's how he was removed, right? So but this is the lie. If they actually believe that, and then you have Gavin Newsom saying at the same time, we have to have peaceful protests because we're very peaceful and nothing criminal. As long as you're not doing anything wrong, nothing bad will happen to you. Being disappeared and kidnapped, which is what the Trump forces are doing, that's illegal. That's wrong. That's a violation of human rights. Being kidnapped for no reason except I don't like the way you look, right? And I think the liberal strategy is basically saying, let Hitler keep beating you up until he has so much power that we can't stop him, and then we'll just reveal that we were always on his side, I guess. Or the liberals be like, if it gets really hot, I'll just leave the United States. It's like, but I'm gonna keep making money in this fake one-party state plutocracy. Show up to my action. Don't do anything. Don't de-arrest anyone, right? Just stand there and hold a sign. And make your voice heard until everyone is being rounded up and the U.S. completely implodes. And I'm going to take all the money that the corporations paid me to enable this complete liquidation of the U.S. economy and its population and its resources. And I'm going to go to my bunker somewhere. I'm going to go to, I don't know, wherever seems nice. So, I mean, just remember that. I mean, unless you have a lot of money and you have your little escape plan to Geneva, or you have an escape plan to, you think, I don't know, I'm going to go to New Zealand. I'm going to escape to Riyadh. I'm out, right? I'm not saying do violence, but like people that are doing the DRS, people that are doing all these those are called violent, right? Just know that, like, I'm not saying, I don't know what will happen, but the United States is going to keep spiraling downward in all likelihood until if I see like, oh my gosh, here is the systems change that's going to happen tomorrow. Gavin Newsom, Bernie, AOC, Kamala Harris is just like, oh my gosh, you've seen the error of her ways. I feel so bad about putting thousands upon thousands of my people behind bars, funding and arming global imperial structures everywhere, doing the bidding of big oil, big tech, billionaires, and just crushing our own country and just completely failing on COVID. I've seen the errors of my ways, and now I'm going to, build socialism in America, and I'm going to feed the people. I don't see anything like that happening. What we see is various legislators and governors posturing. We see Walmart is actually funding some of these some of the No King's actions, and they're going to try to get themselves elected again. If there's an America to get elected in, and then they're going to do nothing again like they did last time. And if you're not a millionaire, a billionaire, a literal U.S. senator or a governor or something like that, okay, if you're not like the niece of the CEO of Walmart, I mean, don't listen to them too closely. I mean, I'm not saying don't show up to any particular action. I'm not saying like, there's all kind of things that various people could be doing. Not everybody is in the street. Everybody don't have to be in the street. But if you believe that the United States is just going to heal all these wounds and everyone's just going to come together as a happy family, I'm not saying that there's no possibility, but I think you are misguided. And there are good financial, career, and really cynical reasons why. Like, if I was a liberal billionaire, I would mislead America too. I'd be like, oh, you know what you should do? You should all just come out, stand around, hold some signs, say this is not who we are. I know you're all gonna get beat to shit, and I'm paying the same police that are doing it, and I'm complicit with the government. I have some beefs with the current administration, but if things get really bad, I'm out. I'm gonna take my private jet out, and I don't give a shit about any of you. But you can come hold a sign and get the people that I want in charge, because I think that I mean, America pretending to be a democracy is very lucrative for global imperialists, right? If America can pretend to be a democracy and it keeps sending weapons into all the proxy wars and be the planetary Death Star for a little longer, we can liquidate a little more African minerals. They can get some more coltan. They can get some cheap labor out of Southeast Asia. The longer America can pretend to be an imperialist, the longer America can pretend to be a functioning country and not a basket case, and they have to build up a new base of operations and figure out how the new multipolar world is going to shake out. That benefits conservative and liberal billionaires and the capitalist class. But their plan is never ever to fix any of the problems that are already there. These people that are going to go to brunch after this weekend's actions, they're not going to, when you get stuck in the facility because you looked wrong, because, I mean, as a middle class, liberal or left, blue haired or whatever, you just look wrong to that ICE border agent, enforcement official. They're not going to be there to de-arrest you. So, I mean, and some people are going to show up to the weekend action. Maybe some of them can be pulled over to join those that are actually taking more concrete, direct actions that are, thinking more clearly about the state they're in and what they need to be doing, right? But there's also a possibility that, like what happened with Black Lives Matter, we had Nancy Pelosi, we had Democrats come out, where liberals come out, kneel down with the kente cloth. Black Lives Matter died down. Democrat administration was elected, and there were more police unalivings, right? More racist policing, more cop cities the next year, right? And so, if there's America by 2028, we're gonna have the same Trump policies. The thing is, we already seen this narrative. If Trump doesn't succeed this time at a complete total coup, then we'll just have normal America, but we'll just have Trump forever. But if it's not Trump forever, then like the 2016 Trump to the 2020 Biden election, the same policies: mass over policing, mass impoverishment, doing whatever corporations want, expansion of the military industrial complex, expansion of police state, expansion of the completely failing on public health, right? A continuation of this ridiculous tariff, trade war, full spectrum attacks on China and the BRICS. That's absolute catastrophic failures. Biden continued to Trump tariffs, right? You could say, well, Trump tariffs were, oh my God, that was so misguided, that was so ridiculous. Biden continued them, and Trump is continuing Biden's continuation of his tariffs. So what's going to happen in 2028 is the same thing. It's I can't guarantee this, but if Trump doesn't permanently run the United States, there will be a 2028 continuation of the Trump Biden policies for the last 8 years, or now it's the last 9 years. It will just keep going without end. Well, it will eventually end somehow, probably. As the U.S. completely implodes and then it's full civil war. But barring that, you're not gonna do not be misguided that you can, because there are many. I see a lot of misguiding, right? That you're gonna get out of this once the Democrat is in charge. Remember, the people that are telling you it's gonna be different, they have already done worse things to you than has ever been done to you. They've already done the worst. They've already done the worst thing. They've done the Holocaust 2.0 with a big fucking smile. They're the ones that are gonna make things better. They're just waiting to do that. The thing is, a lot of those people are just waiting to do that to Americans. They're like, when are we going to bring Gaza to America? The liberals, right? Those people have already said, I don't care about the world. Let's nuke the world. They already said that. They did that. They got a 50% chance of the whole planet, 8 billion people dying in nuclear fire. And they said, yeah, let's go. That's the liberals. So if you think those people care about you, right, you are being fooled by the fox's smile, and don't. Anyway, that's the last thing I'll say about that. And so what is the correct politics? Well, anti-imperial, anti-capitalist, anti-racist solidarity across the board, supporting indigenous rights, and total systems change. I can't say anything more than that. But if you want to support us here at the Silver Spook Cooperative, you can give us direct support at ko-fi.com/silverspook. At ko-fi.com/silverspook. You can give us a one-time donation. You can also help us out at patreon.com/neofeud. Oh, I spelled Patreon wrong. At patreon.com/neofeud, you can oh crap, I'm a bit late. We're on a bit long. If you appreciate the education we try our best to do here, you can support us at patreon.com/neofeud. Work on various things, including Neofeud 2, which is almost done. I'm about halfway done with half of the voice acting. I think is recorded. A little over 1/3 of the voice acting is in. There's still more characters to cast, so you can still try out for the Neofeud 2 voice acting if you want to do that. Mostly it's going to be smaller characters that are being cast now. So, but you can still audition. Doing podcasts with our fellow game devs like Dave Gilbert of Wajidai. Doing anti-imperial victories, celebrating anti-imperial victories, and talking about this from a native Hawaiian indigenous anti-colonial, anti-imperial perspective. We also do here's some of our onions and our food sovereignty. And one thing anybody can do is do mutual aid, community aid, ecological restoration, and also building food, housing, medical, any kind of non-imperial, non-capitalist community economics, material, and basic needs providing of any kind. Educational needs, food needs, medicinal needs. We do all that actually. Holly recently got, this is just some of the onions. This is some of what we do. Holly recently got, we're trying to get a basil and mint as well. Holly got a whole bunch of aloe. We had like one aloe, which is a medicinal plant that helps heal like burns, wounds, or something that's called aloe. So that's some of the work that we do as well. This is the pluricrop sweet potato, sugarcane, tea, orange, tapioca, olena, or also turmeric. It's also medicinal and food. Silver Spook Garden. And if you want to support the Silver Spook actions, you can help us out at patreon.com/neofeud. You can follow. I don't post this too much. I haven't posted too much to it, but I'm going to try to post a little more to Silver Spook Hui, which is all about mostly focusing on our actions here, and from a Native Hawaiian perspective as well. Native Hawaiian anti-imperial, anti-capitalist perspective. And of course, also you can follow at Blue Sky, Silver Spook Games, B Sky. I got too many links. Let me close some of this crap. My computer's probably slowing down because I got too many news open. But you can follow at Silver Spook Games at bsky.social. You can follow. Oh crap. Yeah, I shouldn't have opened up too many news site links. I got too many of those. I got too many. I know I did. I kind of did this last time, but I wanted to do a YouTube discussion on this in light of all the things that are happening. But yeah, you can follow at Silver Spook Games at bsky.social. You can follow on Mastodon at Silver Spook Games at wandering.shop and or at Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social. And you can follow on Twitter at you can follow on Twitter at Silver Spook Guy and or at Silver Spook Games minus the E in silver. And you can follow Holly at Allergic to Blue. Oh, something went wrong. Everything's broken. Even more news of the state of the U.S. collapse. You can follow Holly at Allergic to Blue. Married to myself, mama of two. Not Hawaiian, but married to myself. And remember, the oppressor makes his violence part of the functioning society, but the violence of the oppressed becomes disruptive. This becomes disruptive. Because it is disruptive, it's easy to recognize, and therefore it becomes the target of all those who in fact do not want to change the society. Kwame Ture. Nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. I mean, important things for people to know who haven't been in that fight for a while. And maybe you might have to join it soon in 2025. Remember to keep these in mind from people who have been in the fight for a long time. Anyways, So follow Holly at Allergic to Blue as well. And thank you to all of our patrons for your ongoing support. Massively appreciated. Thank you for your mutual aid patrons. Thank you for your people-to-people support for the electricity that we still need and the internet that we still need and the various basic needs that we still need to use money for. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. Hard to keep doing this without your help. And hey, what's up, Neuro, right? Sorry, I forgot to look at the chat too much, but I'm trying to get through this one fast. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching. Until next time, keep mirror shades possible, be excellent to each other. Do what needs to be done to stop people from being kidnapped and disappeared, which are massive, big illegal, violent things to do. That's already a violence. Anyone who tells you that, you'll be safe as you follow laws. Anyone that tells you you'll be safe if, that this can be stopped by lawsuits or something like that. These people are not correct. They're just factually wrong. And don't listen to them, okay? All right.